So, without further ado, let's get into our program. Let me first welcome Connie Kibbers with Sedalia Laser Pain Center. Folks, put your hands together for Connie. Thank you.
I know that Miss Linda is going to be timing me, so I really am going to stay to script because I could talk a lot longer if anybody knows Doug. And I think that Miss Sandy, I think you were at the meeting this morning with the physicians, and Doug was moderator of that. So, and we'll be mentioning Doug somewhat in this presentation too. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present today about my company, my new business, Sedalia Laser Pain Center. So we were founded July the 1st of 2014. It was my husband, Doug Kibbers. We've been married for 22 years. He was a board-certified orthopedic surgeon here in town. He learned about the cutting-edge lasers while he was in Washington, D.C., actually at a meeting. It was the opening presentation. It was actually a reception that he went to. And there were 50 tables. He happens to sit down at one table with two gentlemen from Florida. One was an orthopedic surgeon, and the other gentleman was a physical therapist. And he always, makes conversation with, so what's new in Florida? And he was very surprised when it was the physical therapist that said, MLS cold wave laser, it's the best thing we've ever seen for treating chronic and acute pain with no side effects. So, and Doug, having at that time been in practice for 28 years, he really had never heard of it. I mean, we've heard of lasers, but we've never heard of this particular cutting-edge laser. So Doug replied, that sounds too good to be true, and so on we went. The gentlemen both said, we've never seen anything like this. So most folks, I would say, would drop the ball at that point, but we did go ahead and research and do our due diligence and researched about the cutting-edge lasers. And what we found is that both of these lasers are FDA approved, and they also are patented. They have no side effects, and there is absolutely no damage to the tissue nor the nerves. And the thousands of scientific research and studies that have been done on the cutting-edge lasers, primarily for 35 years, because they originated by a northern Italian man. He invented them, Lucio, and so these particular lasers have been in Europe for 35 years. So, but then more recently, the research has been done at Harvard. And so we moved forward. I decided to open the business and become America's first freestanding laser pain center in the Midwest, and that was July the 1st of 2014. Knowing that 50 million of us suffer from arthritis or different chronic and acute things, and we also know about the opioid crisis and addiction coming on, and as well as when we take medications and different treatments, there are side effects. So it's very satisfying to offer a natural and successful alternative. So what do? We treat conditions that range from anything from a fresh injury, like a sports injury, for instance, a high ankle sprain, or we had some of the Sedalia bombers stay with us. One boy was hit by a 90-mile-an-hour pitch. Those are really quick. They're young and healthy. Or something chronic, like headache, neck pain, back pain, plantar fasciitis, knee pain, so many things, ligaments, all kinds of, and as well as post-op discomfort. Like after they've had a total knee or something like that, we can laser over that, decrease the inflammation, and get better physical therapy. In fact, when we came first in town, the physical therapists were like, what are you doing? You're speeding your therapy twice as fast as everybody else, and they were coming to us for a laser session. So, but what we love about our laser is that it enhances the body's own healing capacity. It just increases the level of the healing. And so we've seen close to miracles when nothing else in conventional Western medicine has worked or been effective. And we have well-established protocols for each of those areas that I mentioned, the knee, the back. And we also are very specific. We evaluate people very specifically because everybody's made differently based on, how long the condition's been going on, as well as how, what it is, what area, and what medications they're on, because that makes a huge difference. And since it does have FDA clearance, there really is not a need for physician referral, which is also nice. People do wonder about that, but because FDA clearance really essentially means it is safe. So when we started, I'll tell you some of the obstacles we overcame, or we are still overcoming. So basically, this was my very first business to ever start. And it's been 3 years now, but to even start with the first freestanding non-invasive pain clinic, And I was also working as a full-time nurse anesthetist. So I've been an RN for 33 years. I've been a nurse anesthetist for 25. So I was working full-time. And really, there's no model for this size of community. I mean, basically, the lasers are offered in metropolitan areas, not really here. But we really feel like it was an important thing to offer it here for people as an opportunity. But when you do the first of anything, it's pretty tough. You know, anything new, folks and healthcare professionals have preconceived ideas and also thoughts that without having the real facts. Another thing that we overcame on our obstacles was the expense. The lasers are very expensive. We have 2 of the MLS robotic lasers. We have 1 of the hilt lasers. The red one is the hilt laser. We just added that to our arsenal this past May. And then I learned when I did get the hilt laser, we're 1 of 12. There are only 12 hilt lasers in the U.S., so we're 1 of 12. So right here in Sedalia, Missouri. So overcoming also another mindset was, or obstacle was the mindset of folks that this laser is not covered by insurance. You would think now it's been FDA approved for humans here in the States since 2008. Again, Doug reminds me that insurance companies pay for less and less. I mean, they are, and with higher deductibles, I think we're all feeling that right now. And we felt that we made our laser sessions, the price is fair, starting at $60 a session. So it's not, and the other big thing we wanted to make sure that people knew that there are no hidden costs. There are no facility fees. It's $60. There is a different price for the hilt, but very reasonably priced. And I've worked in pain clinics before too. With this cold wave laser, we feel like it's the best deal. We customize the treatment just for that person based on what is the protocol for their condition. And I would say we're at 87 to 90% giving people relief when they do follow protocol. Another of our obstacles was a learning curve. You see the staff, my 2 other, Deidre and Cable, as well as myself, we had extensive certified training in the lasers, but still there is a learning curve to maximize the optimal results in people. Again, we're adapting based on the people, the folks' health issues. So one of the other things was getting the word out. I mean, people were skeptical. We're from the Midwest. You got to show me. And at first we started with evening seminars and word of mouth, and that was very effective. But in the fall of 2015, we added radio advertising, and that was very effective. We've treated people due to that or hearing about that from 4 different states, including Massachusetts is our furthest state away that we've treated people from. That. So what do we need at this time? Some of the things that we need right now is just basically getting the word out about the lasers. They are truly remarkable and really getting the correct information out about the cutting edge lasers. I know there's lasers out there all over the place, but we've never seen anything like this laser. It does go cellular deep. There is information on your table. I would suggest that you take that and read that, because especially on the black and white handout, it tells more scientifically. It's too boring to go through, but it's amazing. Truly, what is amazing is that our bodies are the miracle. It's just, this is enhancing the miracle in our bodies. So we go back to the Hippocratic Oath in medicine, and it's the first rule is first do no harm. And we feel like we have met that need. So we're really excited. Thank you so much for hosting us. Any questions? Yes?
How does the laser work?
So it does penetrate the tissue 2 inches deep on the MLS laser, 3 to 4 inches deep. And so when it goes that depth, it interacts with the mitochondria, which is the cell, and activates the ATP. So 2 waves of energy happen at the same time, it's synchronized, and that's what makes it patented. And so basically, one of them interrupts the pain signal, the other one increases the blood vessel size to allow inflammation to flow from the area. Because typically, when people are having pain, it's inflammation. And so both of those 2 things are addressed. And so when you decrease inflammation over the area, that decreases pain. So it's been, I mean, even, I give anesthetics, so I get to meet a lot of people, and but I soon put them to sleep, so I don't get to hear the rest of the story. So this has been beautiful. And for instance, on some of the laser sessions, for instance, on the back, that takes about 12 to 14 minutes. For head and neck issues, that's about 10 to 13 minutes. It's based, what we love about it, it's based on the size of the person, because a 90-pound person is different than a 400-pound person. So that's why with the robotic, we're able to rotate it just for that particular person. And in medicine, I've never seen anything so specific. Now, when I give an anesthetic, I'm specific as well. but I've never seen anything this holistic, and it does take us a while in the U.S. to really, I think we're getting there on the natural approach, but this is far more therapeutic than I've ever seen. So it's been amazing. Yes, Danny?
How do the results compare to full injury?
You know, on the newer injuries, they don't take as many times. You don't have to have as many laser sessions. Like, for instance, on the Sedalia bomber, the one that got hit by a pitch, a 90-mile-an-hour pitch on his forearm, he was really going, he was playing after the second laser. And then also, then he only needed 4 laser sessions. Something chronic, it depends on how long it's been going on. Sometimes that's 10 to 12 laser sessions. We have one story in particular that I think of, Cheryl. She came up from the Lake of the Ozarks, and she had been on pain medicine, heavy narcotics for 13 years after a back injury. And she didn't really notice any results. This is where it is vague, and we will tell people it's vague. We don't ever know who is going to respond quicker or not. We sometimes feel like we know, but then we get surprised. But for Cheryl, she didn't really notice a lot of relief until session 10. She did go ahead and do 11 and 12, and that's spaced over, that was like over 2 months. You space them out as soon as you can. And basically, that was 2 years ago, and she was able to get off her narcotics, and her pain has not returned. When you get to cellular level, that's where the magic happens, and when you get that addressed. So we tell people, yes, you can come back if you do something you should have done in the yard, if you pulled something, but typically people do not come back, or they don't need to. So that's why we need to get the word out, because people are getting better and they don't need to return, which makes us feel good too. I didn't want to have that feeling in a business. I wanted to make sure that people could have a good quality of life. And Doug and I both know that we are living longer, which is great, but with that comes all these other chronic things. We've worked hard. I think I was talking to Denny, I've worked on a farm, I'm from Marshall. I've worked in detasseling corn and all kinds of things, manual labor. So I know how it feels. And the other thing I want to tell people is that I do offer evening and weekend appointments, because I know how it feels to work at 8 to 4:30 and say, that doesn't meet my schedule. I'm pulling one person in, she's an older lady, she's coming in to see her husband, it's Sylvia Thompson, and I'm pulling her in on Sunday after she sees him. Because it doesn't take long after you've gone through the initial evaluation, so it doesn't take long to actually come in and get lasered. So, yes.
Is it qualified to pay for it out of the HSA?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. We have several people that do the HSA, they have their card from work. Yes, it is. Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
How quickly can you do the assistant? The wait period in between times?
There is. It's a building phase of it. It is high energy, and people are like, is this Star Wars? Or what is this? It seems like Star Wars, but there is a building phase, yes. So for the MLS laser, the robotic, at first we do 3 laser sessions in the first full week. We do have to space it out a day in between. So if you came on a Monday, it would be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday laser session. And then every time, what we love about it is we're writing down what have you noticed? Where are you at right now? We know that the robotic and both of the lasers work for 24 hours. So when people come back, we ask them, how are you feeling today? What have you noticed? But more importantly, what did you notice in that 24-hour period? Because that helps us set up the actual laser numbers on the power. So, because it's different hertz, it's different intensity. And what we found in this time is that Europeans are different than us. In fact, Europeans can tolerate intensities much higher than us Americans. We are far more chronically ill. And so we have found that to be true too. So Italy has had to adapt to our conditions here in the U.S. with their settings. Yes. Sorry.
First, a comment and a question. So your procedure is so good that when you do it, if your customers don't need to return almost no matter what, that's like the worst business model.
I know.
But good for you for doing it. Second, you all clearly, because it's FDA approved, you don't have to market, or you can market directly to the public,
right?
Radio, and you've done it with some success. Do you market also to physicians? So yes, to get them referred?
We did. We have overall, and it takes an open-minded person. For instance, a lot of places that have these robotic lasers primarily are chiropractors and podiatrists. It's really hard to sell an MD. So I applaud Doug that he was open-minded enough to look at all alternatives, because we know that when we take a pill by mouth, where does it really go? So he's frustrated too. He knows he needs to get prescriptions and that kind of thing. So, you know, it is different in that mindset too. So we basically, you know, we did the radio advertising just to get the word out, because it is new enough technology in the Midwest especially. I don't think I answered all the questions. Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned the Sedalia bombers.
Yes.
Okay. Do you work with pediatrics at all? Is there an age situation?
That's a very good
I have
question.
special needs child. I'm going to follow up with you.
Okay.
Genetic abnormality, overall low muscle tone, physical and occupational therapy, and pain management have been ongoing situations.
Right.
We're lucky to recently get physical therapy here in Sedalia as opposed to driving to Warrensburg or Columbia or Children's Mercy. So, like I said, I'm going to follow up privately, but it's like, do you work with students, sports injuries?
Yes.
things like
So that is a good question. There are the people that we cannot absolutely laser are leukemics. And if somebody has a device like a pacemaker, we cannot laser over that, and that's part of the evaluation when we have the patient in there. So if they came for the pacemaker, a lot of times it's the left subclavian. If they came for the shoulder, we could not laser there, but we could laser anywhere else. Growth plates, we cannot laser over growth plates. Now I don't know where that that child is fully grown, but we know where the growth plates are, so that's one of the don'ts. And so we are very mindful of that. I've had some people come and they have Hodgkin's, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, or other types of cancer that are not related to leukemia. I definitely will say, I will call your oncologist. Of course, they always have their oncologist number, and I do have their number. I call them right there, and usually within an hour I have an answer. I have never had an oncologist say that they cannot be lasered, but I do document it in the consent, saying I spoke to such and such, and that they okayed it. So, but that's really the only thing: no growth plates, not over devices, and no leukemics of the laser. Do nots. Yes.
So I know also recently news in Missouri is the stem cell treatment in orthopedic medicine, where they take out of your leg and put it in the joint, and it helps regenerate the cells within your own body. So how would this differ? I mean, if I'm understanding you right, you're saying that the laser then reduces the inflammation and promotes cell activity as well. So what would be the major differences in those two procedures?
Doug would be better to answer that, but basically my thought on that is it's not really, orthopedics doesn't always view that as being a positive thing. It's not there yet. I think it's not there yet, but it is something that's available. It is kind of a lucrative business right now for people that have that. So, but it's not quite there yet. But this is, it's been in Europe for 35 years. This is proven now. It doesn't build cartilage. It doesn't affect the bone, but it does address the inflammation and interrupts the pain signal without any damage. So it's not really a horizontal, but it's, and we do not laser over a joint if it's been injected. There has to be a 10 to 14 day period, same as they should be injected if they've been in a laser segment. And we do coach them on that too. The reason is because of the vasodilatation of the vessel that the laser does give, that there might be a possibility that washes that medicine that's put in there quicker than it should, or and then you wouldn't really know which one worked or which one didn't work, kind of thing. So we've always been very, do unto others as we look done unto us. So we're very informative. We do a lot of coaching, and we do encourage people to stretch, to basically wear good shoes, and we go over other body mechanic helps, being more mindful, like we see, but just being more mindful of things. So we do go over that because it's not that a laser is it's the only thing that you should do. You should really continue to stretch, because Doug would say that stretching and the laser are great, but together they're better. So we also go over all of those things too, just to maybe refresh your memory. And actually, if people don't stretch, we ask them to resume it. And we do have some exercises that people can do right there that we hand out as well. But we try to make people go for it. We want to get busy and we want to do things, and especially the older clientele we've had, and people have tried everything. They usually come to me when they've tried everything, and I get that. So, yes.
Tell me about treatments for neuropathy.
Neuropathy, peripheral neuropathy is one of our tougher things to treat. In fact, honestly, I rarely do treat it. Now, it is listed on our brochure But through the company, I just said, it means there's so many different things. We've had Vietnam vets with peripheral neuropathy. Is that due to Agent Orange? We don't know. And then diabetics, it depends on their blood sugar. Is it controlled or not controlled? Honestly, I really do not treat, I don't really usually treat peripheral neuropathy just because it's a tougher thing. And what the company told me, yes, you could do a certain amount, but as soon as they stop the laser, then it returns. That is not what I don't do that. That's what I don't advertise. It needs to be long lasting for me to advertise anything. Yes.
Thank you. So clearly, healthcare is your background.
Yes.
Specialty. Talk to maybe for the UK, your experience in building a small business, and then the financial background. Did you learn that sort of thing?
It was interesting for sure on the financial backbone. But basically, one of my clients was an accountant. So I had her as one of my. She's now my accountant. So, I had some. Yes, I was working. So we always had, and that's how Doug and I decided. Okay, here we are. We're still working hard. We feel like it's a very viable, worthy thing to offer here in Sedalia. And so we also had in the back of our mind, we had a plan B if it didn't work out. So initially we started with one of the MLS lasers, then added the second in 3 months because I didn't want people to wait. And then we added the hilt, and people needed deeper things, as well as it's hard on our staff. Chronic pain, or even acute, but chronic pain especially, is really hard. It's hard on our hearts. It's hard on people. They're frustrated. And with the MLS, like with Cheryl, for instance, whenever it took the 10th session for some reason, we were getting as frustrated as her. But that's why we added the hilt, because it goes deeper. So we kind of call it the booster shot, or if you need something right away, that's the one we go to. And so that was one of the hurdles, and just basically finding the time. For 3 years, I really didn't get any sleep. I was working 7 days a week, but that's all right, because that's what you do when you start a business, and that's what you do as a farm kid. You just pressure on. I said, what husband goes off to a meeting and finds a second thing for me to do but my Doug, my Doug. So that's our Doug. If anybody knows Doug Killers, they know he's a hard worker too, a very community-minded person. And, he sees that as frustrating too, when people come to him and want things, and that it's really hard to treat medicine with medicine, traditional medicine. Like heel pain, that's a tough thing. Yes, John?
So 2 questions. One, can you rent that equipment that they're buying? And 2, it looks mobile enough. Can you take it on the road, or you may in the home, so you guys have it right here?
Well, I don't take it on the road because of my liability insurance. That's one of the things, which is very expensive to have that. It is mobile, and I did take it to the coach's clinic this past weekend just to show people, but not to laser anybody. Really, the only safety thing is we wear goggles. But we feel like it's so delicate. In fact, we had one of the robotic heads just kind of do a whirling thing last Thursday. Like, oh my gosh, we've had it for 3 years. We baby it we love it. And so it was interesting. There was our service guy was in Overland Park, Kansas. What's the chance of that? He's from Florida. So, and he said, I've seen all kinds of things. I said, well, we tried to baby it. I don't think we did anything. He goes, oh no, it just needed to have its sensor cleaned. And he said, I can tell it's your baby. So we really can't take it on the road just because of insurance purposes. And because also part of it is a cumulative thing. So we would have to go on the road, like to nursing homes or whatever, 3 times a week or twice a week. So it's not really feasible in that manner either. It comes down to liability insurance. And I don't want to burn out my staff either. They're wonderful. I don't want to burn them out. Yes.
What are your plans for growth? I have a feeling that this is going to catch on, and people are going to come from all over the Midwest, all over the country, everywhere to come get this. They're going to say, I went to Sedalia and got rid of my pain.
Yes.
And,
Right. And we have had people like that. And there is one now in Marshall. There's one at Lake of the Ozarks, the MLS laser. There are others around in the community. I think there's a couple in Summit, one in Overland Park, and there are none in Columbia yet. So we even encourage people, listen, we can't, we want it to grow. We feel like in 10 years, they'll be everywhere. So we kind of felt like with Doug sitting at that table, it just kind of rose us to a new occasion on that. So we're really excited. We're really excited about it. So thank you for inviting me.
I have a last question
Yes.
for you. What can we as a community create?
Basically just get the word out that I think it's just getting the correct information out for the cutting edge lasers, because there are other lasers out there, and I think they kind of, like everything, they kind of burns the bridges on us from other aspects. But I do feel like just get the word out and just and and give us a call. Because we'll be really honest with people. We are very honest about the peripheral neuropathy or different things like that. And we'll coach people on things too. So we're happy to chat with anybody. All right. Thank you.